Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can follow us on Instagram or on Facebook. You can find me personally on all things Threads, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. I am not doing X right now, or what was formerly known as Twitter. I have not figured out how to get back into my account, guys. So I switched phone numbers and stuff back in the day during transition of businesses 2.5 years ago, and I still have not figured out how to fix the X situation, as we'll call it. And so that's where you can find us. You can find Gorilla Brave on all of those as well. And you can find us online at gorillabrave.love if you guys are looking for that. If you're looking for transcripts for the podcast, as I said in the previous episode, you can find them on Podbean, but as we had questions come up since then, in the last 24 hours, we figured out a way to link all the transcripts to Apple Podcasts. So in Apple Podcasts, on each episode, if you click on it, it has the entire transcript at the bottom of the episode for everyone, time-stamped and everything. So that is there for everyone. That took us a little bit. I apologize. But now all of them will have it that have transcripts. So if you go back, since we started that end of 2024, you can see that there for you guys. So with that being said, I have very special guests with us today back in their proverbial studio. They set it up, as I've seen on social media, with their cell phone and video. I have Chris and Crystal Green of Skyrocket Coffee out of Texas with us again today. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thank you, Justin.
Yes, doing great. Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I have a lot of questions for you guys in the meantime. So I want to sort of just dive in. I'm going to ask point blank questions. I'm going to let you guys talk about what the things you want to talk about too, but I'm going to just jump right off the board here. Help the audience understand the importance of single origin coffee, what the difference is, why you chose it, the health benefits that are associated with them, that we believe. Can we just go through that? I'd like to start there because I think that question has come up a few times, like what's the difference? I don't think anyone that just is a regular coffee truly understands the importance of it. So let's start there.
Absolutely. Okay, so single origin, what that's defining is that often in the coffee world, there are most offerings commonly blends, and that's what many coffee consumers are experiencing with what they're purchasing is often a blend. And so that will constitute of often two different countries. And sometimes they'll do it for different reasons. It could be for flavor profile. It could be for using, 10% of a high quality product and 90% of a less quality product, or some version of that. Ours are single origin, meaning specifically, if you look at our label and it says Honduras, it's from the Copan region. There's nothing else in that coffee except for that harvest. So that Honduras Copan region coffee, that's it. So we're not blending it with a Brazil. We're not blending it with something from Colombia. We're not mixing it with other country origins. So the reason we did this was out of the gate. When you brought up the health question, we're buying higher end beans for our inputs because what goes in matters for a multitude of reasons, but also it's the output is why it's such a higher quality output. So with our beans, we're buying a certified organic product, so no harmful pesticides, sustainable practices on the farm. And we're buying them in certain regions. So right now it's Honduras, Mexico, and Papua New Guinea. So those are the regions we're buying, but we're not blending them. So we say single origin so that they know that if they're drinking Honduras, it's strictly Honduras, Mexico, strictly Mexico, and strictly Papua New Guinea. We didn't find when we did our cuppings a reason to mix. Each one has such a unique and wonderful flavor profile. we didn't see a reason to add or try to even mix a blend with them. And that, for us is that was just an internal preference for what we're offering. I'm trying to think of it, without, it's just blends are often just used for different ways to lower the overall cost for the product to go to market. And in the way we're set up, it doesn't blending. All of our coffees are higher end, so all of our coffees are a premium bean, and it wouldn't matter if we mixed. It wouldn't lower the cost. There's no market advantage for us to do it, and there's no taste profile. What I'm looking for, a benefit. There would be nothing by mixing Mexico with Honduras or Papa with Mexico. It wouldn't matter. It just wouldn't bring out a better blend. It wouldn't make a better coffee than they are standalone. So we just left them as single origin for that purpose. Maybe in the future we might do some blending, but that is really the differentiator, is that many coffee offerings in the marketplace are often blends. And that's why when people refer to coffee, they go, oh, my coffee blend. It's because it is typically on the bag, it'll say blend, and that is what they mean. They have taken two different single origins and mixed them together to build a more robust flavor profile or a better profile from what the inputs they're using. Whereas ours were so premium at the start, there was no reason to do that for us.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk a little bit about regions you chose, flavor profiles you guys like and were looking for, because I think in the art of coffee, and I don't totally understand it, whatever coffee I can get black is sort of my thing. I generally like it healthier or organic for sure. But the thing for me is it's not an industry I've ever been in, though, and it's not an industry I've ever built. Let's look at it that way. So it's very interesting to me. So some of the questions even I'm getting, it has had me do my own research and thought into this, but I understand it. I understand staying true to the origin. I also understand blending from a profitability standpoint. I also understand it from dulling the flavor in some ways, because there is a richness to coffee. There are different flavor profiles in the single origin. So in a way, we're dulling the flavor by doing that. We're trying to make it in a way more palatable, I guess, to a general public, versus have multiple truly different types of coffee from different origins grown in different ways, which is more artisanal, I would say, perspective wise. But from a health standpoint, let's look at it as these different places, different coffees, introducing different coffees to our diets probably gives us a diversity in different types of things going into our bodies that are healthy for us. So that's the part that I think one of the things I like about the single origin thing and the diversity of getting the coffees from different places, the exposure to the benefits from those places that they're grown and the differences in the benefits. So I particularly like that. Let's talk about why, out of all the flavors, we talk about the three, but let's talk about them again in detail. Why those three? Why did you settle on those three regions? You obviously did tasting and flavor profile, but let's dive into that profile, because we're talking a little bit like the art of wine tasting or bourbon tasting when it comes to coffee, right?
Yes. Yes. So exactly right. Every coffee has its own tasting profiles, and how we ended up there was we started with a round table of coffee from every region of the world. I mean, it was everything: Brazil, Vietnam. We had Colombia on the table. The list goes on.
Yeah.
It was a long list.
Yeah.
And
at the beginning, the only requirement was certified organic. And so we had just probably just like I don't know, it was probably a good five, like a big bag that was just like full of different origins of coffee from all over the world. So we were able to test probably, I want to say it was probably almost 20 different coffees.
Yeah.
And we went off of mostly our tastes and what we liked best. So I'll let you finish.
Yeah, well, we like to think we have good taste. So when we were looking at these, we were looking at, and so when you're tasting coffee, one of the things that you'll notice is that you touched on it in that last statement. Each country, their soil, the altitude it's grown at, the amount of sunshine it receives, the heat, all these things impact the flavor profile of the bean and how it's going to develop overall. And so when you're tasting all these different beans, the thing about this is that the coffee strain itself could be the same strain. It could be that the coffee tree is the same genetics grown in Colombia as it is in Papua New Guinea. However, the mineral base in the soil, what altitude it's grown at, will then turn around and continue to shape the taste profile of the finished fruit of this, of the seed that we go. And then you take that seed, you put it to our roasting process, and now you get the finished product. But when we were going through them, we were tasting them and we were picking the ones that we had that checked all of our boxes. So yes, so the first part was that certified organic, which narrowed the field because there's not all farms are participating in that certification process. So immediately we were able to just take hundreds of offerings off the table, narrow it down to what this particular importer had, which was around that 20 or so. And then we were able to cup from there and pick out the ones that, I mean, you could have everything. You could have that same bean being grown somewhere in a different, I remember one of them was very similar, but it was the same coffee bean, but in two different countries. And one of them tasted like grass. When the finished one had this like lemongrass taste to it. And it was like, whoa, this is so wild that you could have the same thing grown in different regions, taste completely different. And so when we were going through the selection process, we were looking for things that we felt met the wider consumption base of the coffee consumer. So something that landed us in the middle. So we weren't too particular for the percentage of particular coffee drinkers, and we aren't Folgers or the lower end coffee offerings. We're more towards the middle of the taste profiles, and I guess what I'm trying to say there is that ours have very rich notes. When you try our coffee, the first thing that's going to stand out beyond the aroma of just the freshness and the aroma of the product, but the coffee, when it's made itself, has very pronounced flavor profiles. So Honduras, all three of them have a chocolate note to them. Now from there, it differs. In this particular taste profile, Honduras, I think it's Honduras is the darker chocolate, or am I mistaken?
The Papua New Guinea is the darker.
Excuse me. Papua New Guinea has the darker chocolate profile. And then it has these other, in fact,
Papua New Guinea is like dark chocolate and like sweet black tea. It's kind of more on the savory side of coffee. Our Mexico is going to be right in between, like our sweet and savory. That one's got chocolate,
caramel, and
orange, orange taste to it. And then the Honduras is going to be more on the sweeter side of coffee. So that one's our chocolate, chamomile, pear.
And those are just tasty notes. And so here's the thing, they're subjective. So we have, from the experience, from our feedback from our customers, there are a large percentage of them pick up on the chocolate right away. And I would say a lesser percentage of them pick up on all the other notes. It's almost as if you have it's the taste buds, like the profile of like what people can actually distinguish in the mouth. And it's phenomenal to see the data continue to come in, because I'm, for one that can only taste certain profiles. And we actually just got one back, and the person reviewing our coffee could taste all the opposite side, the chamomile, the pear, the citrus, and all the things that I really can't pick up. And so that was kind of a mind-blowing thing, because it's very subjective. And I think that's where it's like people really understand that in the wine world, but we're not quite all the way there in the coffee world. Some people are very advanced in their coffee consumption, and they've exposed themselves to many different types of coffee and have found this world. Although many coffee drinkers we find are kind of like, it's one of those things that you want to count on it, so you don't want to venture out. They like what they like. They have it regularly every day. And often that's who we're trying to reach the most, to say, hey, I know you love what you're drinking, but try this. I think you might really enjoy it. And you might find something that you didn't know existed before. That coffee really can have these really pronounced flavor profiles and be really exciting to drink. And I think that's what we're delivering on, and really bringing with our product to the marketplace, is that little bit of that educational side to it, right? Because we're not just basic coffee makers. When you really boil it down, when you really, no pun intended, but when you're drinking our coffee, you're really going to notice a pronounced flavor profile that you probably don't experience much in other coffees, often because of the roasting process. The roasting process can diminish a roast profile, or a taste profile, excuse me. It can add things to it depending on how it was roasted. Whereas most people, will know that by that burnt, bitter taste. That's often things that are inside those closed chambers that we don't experience because of our air roasting method. So that's what's exciting about our coffee, is that it has a richer taste, a smoother, richer taste profile. And it's very exciting to see people try something, especially new. If people who are new to venturing out, beyond what they're accustomed to, they often have great results with our coffee.
I like this. Talk to me about, you do a lot of pairings, you do a lot of things on social media now, pairing the coffees with things. Some of the audience has referred to some of that stuff you guys do. Why that route also with the coffee? I think it tastes great. Just so the audience knows, I've tasted all of it. For me, it has a more earthy tones to it, but more grounded, more whatever. So I don't get the lighter tones that other people get, but to me, it tastes like good coffee. So that's important. But I just want to talk about ideas, marketing, bringing it to market now. You're competing with other roasters, but you guys have a way to market that I think is unique. The videos that you guys are doing, Crystal's doing, is pretty awesome. So let's talk about sort of bringing this to market now, because you have a coffee, you have this idea. I think we talked a little bit about it before, but I don't think we truly dived into it. The mixology, that bringing it to market, trying to build your own brand, build your own voice in an industry that there are other participants, for lack of a better term, right now. Let's talk about that.
Sure. It is a competitive field, of course. And that was, as far as social media for us and for our marketing, is one part educational. And that's what we're doing, is we came with ideas, right? So we came with an initial game plan, and as we rolled it out, we looked for the feedback, and then we started to speak to the feedback. So we had our ideas of what would be important, which, in my opinion, is much like any business. You want to talk about what differentiates you from your competition, how you do things different, where you put care, where you put care to in the product, and where what we're doing as far as putting a premium input into the bag, to the quality of the bag itself, to what matters to us. And we want to give people the experience of the journey of building this company. So it's not just about us. We're really trying to create a interactive environment where people can join in on our mission. So we're doing all this coffee. We want to have a great product, and we have a great product. We're bringing it to the market, but we're also doing it to pay our the things that we were given, their gifts forward, and through our support with literacy programs and the Reading is Fundamental Foundation. And that is where people can become part of what we're doing. So you can see us building the company. You get the inside behind the curtain look at what we're doing and the stories, the experiences that go along with that. And you can also be a part of it. You consume coffee, you can be a part of it. You can do good and help us further our mission. That's where we started. And then we started, as we got the posts out there and we started to get the feedback, we started to interact with those feedback. And you're going to see a lot more of that coming forward as we continue to get more of it coming in. And one of them was, yes, is her roasting videos and explaining what we're doing. And I think that helps people. Most people understand where the coffee's at. You open the bag, the coffee's there, it's done. We're kind of just giving you that from where it came from to how we do things, why ours is different. And you're a part of that whole journey and process. And we're going to continue to keep that model moving forward because it really is around the journey. I don't know what else to say there, is that you're part of our journey. We believe that social media is an important element in building a brand today. And I think that people become more invested in it if they're able to see it from start to present and see what's been going on and really have a part. You kind of get a part of that. You get to see the story. You get to be a part of it. You're like, hey, I remember when they started here. I remember when they only had 100 followers and now they're over 4,000 followers, and look at them go, and look, now they're in Amazon and now they're doing this. I mean, we're just about to launch into a ton of events around Texas, store shelves. I mean, it's all on its way. So it's kind of an exciting time and thing to be a part of. And that's really what we're trying to deliver, is some value at the end of the day to the person on the other side of the screen, right? So we want to make sure that it's entertaining, it has value, it has some educational aspect to it, and you really get to know what we're doing and what the coffee is about. And here soon, you're going to be more. We're going to be including live roasting events, so you'll actually see the coffee that you'll be drinking roasted live on social media. And we just think that's a lot of fun for people to be a part of. We want to create community around what we're doing.
And to answer your question about the pairings, my drink videos, that's kind of, actually Chris was the one who was going to originally start that, and then kind of,
honestly, I did a terrible job. She took it from me.
His video was a disaster. So I took over and just a lot of that actually comes from my mom. She's amazing cook and is so good at just like figuring out what kind of ingredients you can throw together and build a beautiful thing. And so I kind of pulled her, I guess, lessons into that, and just was like, you know what? Okay, this coffee is going to go really good with a berry or a whatever flavor. And so I'd make fun drinks that just kind of accentuate the coffee in that way.
And showing people what they can do at home, because we're not coffee shops. We're not the coffee shops. And we want to really convey that, hey, this is coffee. You can do these things at home. Tarani's available. You can order your bottle. You can look at what's going into the drink, and you can bring all of it in-house and make it yourself. And that's one thing that's very important to us, is we want to really display the home brew aspect. We're not using Las Morocco, really great, espresso
machines or anything,
because we want to show you what you can do at home with what we all have reasonable access to. I would say many people probably have Breville's in the marketplace. It's very rare that somebody has a $5,000 espresso machine at home, and great for you if you do. That's wonderful. But we just want to really show you, hey, you can do magic with our beans and a simple Breville. Breville's a great machine. You can do, and I'm not sorry, this is not a paid ad for Breville. It's just, they're available, they're great, and they make a good espresso pull. And you don't have to be a professional barista to make a great cup of coffee at home. And that's what she, that was the other aspect of that. She wanted to show the creativity, show you what you can do at home, and make great drinks. I mean, we got to be careful with them. They're so good.
Yeah.
They're a bit high in calories sometimes.
Yeah, if we make them for ourselves without the camera on me, it is mostly sugar-free, lower calorie. So,
And I think we're also going to be taking those drinks towards that direction too, because we realize that that is one aspect. As we've also, here's something, Justin, that we've learned, and very recently, is we've learned more about our customer avatar in the recent times than we knew. And one of the things that when we're talking about premium beans being organic, certified organic, and we test for mold and mycotoxins to make sure they're not in our coffee. And the reason that is that there's a growing concern around that people are concerned about whether or not they have mold in their coffee. So that's why we do that. We really want the consumer to be put at ease and know that we care just as much as they do about what they're putting in their bodies. And when we realize that, and that's really who our customer is, we realize that maybe these higher sugar syrups that we're using and these whipped creams, that maybe we need to reevaluate that and see if we can't even upgrade that.
Get it more in line with something that we would actually
consume.
Would consume. Yeah.
We went full entertainment and then realized, we should lead by example. Like, this isn't something we really consume. We shouldn't really be. So we're actually, these are like on the fly adjustments that we're making to our marketing approach as we continue, again, with the feedback. As the feedback comes in, it's a feedback loop, right? And as it comes in, we're able to adjust to it. So that's something that the audience can experience, or can count on us for coming here soon, is that you're going to see a lot more of the healthier drinks. We've also incorporated into our social media. We've reached out to a lot of other home-based brewing people that are running their social medias. They're creating these fantastic drinks, and we've incorporated their work into what we're doing, because honestly, there's a lot of talent out there, far greater than what we can come up with or even keep up with. And we love sharing that with them as well, and having them be a part of what we're doing and having great experience and feedback on their end too. So that's
because it's going to get to a question on collaboration, because coffee can go in a lot of different ways. If you're not the coffee shop itself, there's not only coffee shops, there's selling online, but then there's the collaboration aspect. So you are thinking about it. Let's continue down that avenue so I can check off that question.
100%. That's exactly. Yeah. So we are working with home-based brewers, and we basically, we're at this junction, we're in a gifted collaboration with these people. So if the audience is out there listening, they can reach out to us if that's something they're interested in. We come across them as we're scanning for accounts to be a part of, to follow, as again, a shared marketing approach. And if they have great display of work, then we typically reach out with them and ask if they're interested in collaborating. And we've had a number of successful collaborations now that have just been since just the last conversation with you. Actually, a lot of this has really transpired since that call. We've really stepped up the approach and had a number of collaborations that have been in the works that are just coming back. So they kind of take a little bit of time, and you need to allow for that. If that's something like somebody's listening out there about collaborations, they're wonderful. You got to test them and find out and make sure they, it's not all great. Sometimes you will send sample packs out and you will get nothing in return, but you just got to be discerning and continue down the path and keep asking, and you'll find some great people out there in the world of the internet. And we've been very fortunate. We've got a lot of great people. We've got a lot of great content that's going to be coming up this next month and continuing on in the drink making space. And then we've also started to collaborate with basically their drink reviewer, their product reviewers, unboxers, that sort of thing. And we started to work with them as well, because we want other people telling audiences, not just their audience, but our audience, what they think of our coffee. So these aren't necessarily, we want them to be very organic. We don't ask them to say anything specific. We simply ask them to collaborate with us, and we offer our product in exchange for a review. And then we take the reviews back, and often they do a joint collaboration where we just can review and accept them, and they'll post to our site, or they send them back to us and then we post them, we repost them and use them for future. Because in the game of online marketing, proof is important and necessary. And so we want as many people as possible just saying what they think of our coffee. And that way it's not us always saying we think it's great. We want you to, see it from other people's mouths that it's great. That's those collaborations. There was another part to the question.
No, I'm think I mean, you covered most of it. I'll come back to the other part, I think, because I want to just continue where you are from now. Let's talk about building relationships, because that's part of what you just talked about. I just want to anchor it. You guys are obviously good at that. If you have this strategy, you're talking about collaboration. Let's talk about building those relationships. How do you maintain them? Because you're already in the mindset.
Yes. So the first part is I initiate the collaboration. I initiate them as a gifted collaboration, and I put in a message with that there's an opportunity to do more work together. We always are looking for talent. So we start with a gifted collaboration because we need to see what you'll return to us. We're checking timeline, turnaround, quality of the video work that you produce. We're looking for the style. Can you follow, are you following the details of what we asked? Are you going rogue? Are you doing your own thing? And once we can identify that these are people that because I don't know these people. These people are all over the United States. I can't sit with you and have a conversation. So it's like my way of testing. So I throw it out there and I find out if you meet my criteria in those realms. And if you do, then I'm going to reach back out to you again, and then we can start to talk about future work together. The one thing about this is that is very tough about social media is there's a challenge between the value, the cost of a production of something and its return on that investment. And depending on your followers, how many followers you have, depending on the other side of that equation's audience and your budget, it makes it kind of challenging because you need to make your budget stretch as far as you can if you don't have a lot of it. If you have a lot of it, maybe you want to step up your collaborations to a higher level, more celebrity, some more famous or higher followerships. We often, right now with our budgets, we're looking to work with people who are looking to build their own UGC creator, influencer, followership and businesses. Together, I feel that's a good match. We have a pretty decent sized audience that we have on our following. And we often collaborate with others that have, sometimes they may only have a few hundred. They may have nothing of real audience value, but their quality of content is really good. And you can see that they're really making an effort to build their business. And I love working with those people because I feel like we're sharing our audience and we're sharing an opportunity. You make the right video for me, I'm going to go and boost that. I'm going to go bring us both more exposure. And so I may not be out of the gate wanting to pay for the collaboration because I need to see the value that you'll return first. But once that's accomplished and you make the callback list, now we're going to talk about a lot of different things. It may be increased product that we want to be reviewing. So we may be giving you more product, more merch, more opportunity, more exposure, reach out to you about a campaign we're trying to do and accomplish and and have you work with us on that, to just flat paid collaborations. That's the path for us because it's the internet. And like I said, at the beginning, you're kind of just fishing and you want to start by my advice is start with the gifted collaborations, look for opportunities, and find people that are aligned with your values and what you're trying to accomplish, and build from there. And again, some of this can be averted by having bigger budgets, and you can approach bigger bigger influencers, I guess, or higher up on the list. But I don't necessarily even recommend it. The thing about this is that we get a lot of people that reach out to us with hundreds of thousands, millions of followers. Sometimes, the biggest things I try to track are what viewership are they getting. So I track how much interaction they're getting with their posts, because you're going to find that sometimes those followerships are bought, for lack of better words, or they could have a lot of followers but no engagement. So you could be collaborating with somebody that has 1.7 million followers, but they're getting 50 views on their content pieces. So you're going to, so this person approaches you, think, oh my gosh, they got 1.7 million people. This is it. We're going to go viral. I'm going to, give them whatever they ask, $400, $500, $1,000, and all this is going to be great. And then it goes nowhere. So it's not a straightforward, what I'm getting at is it's not a straightforward game, and you need to sort of approach it with a bit of caution, reach out, feel these people out, see what they're into and what's important, like if they align with what you're trying to do. And not everything is as it may appear. It's not always an opportunity. So just, be discerning when you're looking at building that section of your marketing campaign. So we approach it with the gifted first. Once we see the return of work, if it's what we ask for and exactly what we ask for, and it's of high quality, we put them on a callback list. From there, then we'll go on. And often what we do as well is boost the initial post. If it's really good, I'll just go ahead and boost it. It's good for both of us, and it's a way of saying thank you. So I feel instead of paying them directly for that content creation, I spent the money in a way that paid them back with, they get more followers as well as I get more exposure and followership as well. So that's how we approach it. And so far it's good.
I agree with that tactic. I mean, I know that certain influencers will explode businesses out and all that, but I think giving to the community is important, and then the mutual benefit is important as well, particularly in food, in beverage, as we see online. If there's a good collaboration, both parties benefit. Influencers, however you want to look at it. 2 different restaurants, those reels I've seen starting to do well, particularly in pizza. These bake-offs or pizza-offs, or Detroit versus Brooklyn, but they're in the same neighborhood. These things are doing well, guys. These are competitors, but guess what? They're drawing both their customers to each other, and both companies are growing because they're building an industry. It's true. So, I mean, there's a lot of that as well, which I find interesting. That's why I bring up the topic. I also had a question about it. Go ahead. You were going to say something, Chris.
Yeah, I want to interject real quickly, because I love what you just brought up. They could be on opposing sides of the road or close competitors. I would go back and, I mean, for some of the younger audience, they wouldn't know who Blockbuster is or Hollywood Video, or, I mean, those were some of the old examples. You always found them on opposite sides of the road, and that was by design. That was actually by design. It actually drives more business to them. So I love that they're collaborating that way. I think that's fantastic. That's amazing. That's a really great marketing tactic. You saw it with Burger King, McDonald's, restaurants did it. It's always been a thing. It's a great, don't boohoo your competitor. If you can collaborate with them, go for it. I mean, you always want to obviously sell more, but it does drive up exposure.
Well, yeah, Culver's does the same thing, which is a growing chain across the United States. They are always somewhere near a McDonald's, because the bet how they built their business. Oh, I don't want to wait in a McDonald's drive-through line. It's too long and I only have an hour for lunch, but I really want a burger and fries. Oh, a butter burger sounds good. That's the same thing with Burger King. It wasn't only building a brand, but it's the understanding of how do you offer an alternative, and maybe a better alternative at a higher price, because they're not willing to wait in the line anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're also keeping more customers in your area, because they're not going to eat your restaurant every single day. Nobody does that. So
Yeah.
you're bouncing them from back and forth, but they're staying in the area. They're not travel. They're not looking outwards. I love that. Anyway, just a little tidbit. Something
Yeah.
I'd read.
And rest stops, things like that. I know Marriott helped build them in the United States. Now it's owned by the same company, or I still believe so. Fiat still runs it as in the same car company. They do food as well. They run most of the food. Her rest stops in America that have food in them on the East Coast. But it's the same idea. You're clustering a bunch of restaurants and things together. They may look like competitors, but in actuality, you're creating an industry or a sub-industry in every exit across every highway across America. Think about it, guys. In the 1960s, that's how it was built. That's how the roads were built. They needed these exits, but it was done through collaboration. While they look like competitors and they're each trying to attract the same group off the exit, they're still attracting them off the exit.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. What was that question?
it's about collaboration with others, because I think in coffee, the question specifically was, how do you see the coffee industry collaborating with other industries to grow the artisanal side of it? That's more of the specific. I just translated it to flow with the conversation. I tend to do that. No, audience, probably that isn't exactly my question, but I think I answered it. So, how do you get out there and be a differentiator? Whether you're artisanal or any starting business, you have to be different. You have to build relationships, right?
Agreed. I agree 100%. I mean, especially if you're speaking specifically to coffee, for us, it was really coming to the market with it. We all work with, anybody could go to my importer and buy the same beans I'm buying. So that's not going to make me different, right? You could buy them. I can buy them. We can all buy them. We had to get to something that really differentiated ourselves from the rest of the pack. And that is where the air roasting comes in. So the air roasting is the game changer for us. It's the disruptor. It's not that it's a brand new technology. It's just not a widely used technology to date in the coffee roasting industry. And one of the reasons being is that it is for our system is small batch. So we are not only air roasting, we're doing it in small batches so we can maintain that high level of consistency and quality that you can come to count on every time you drink our coffee. That is a differentiator in a major way. If you've been one who's found some of these artisanal coffee offerings, and I say artisanal or your medium to large brands, or not medium to large, but excuse me, medium brands and down. The large brands, they roast in massive, massive kilogram roasters. I mean, we're talking 100, 200 kilogram roasters, which is over 400 pounds of coffee in one batch. They have settings, they're preset. It For lack of better words, it burns it to the exact profile they want every time because that's how they achieve their consistency. It's not necessarily any special standout sort of coffee. It's your common coffees that you're buying from the big store brands. Now, when you come down a level, down to the mediums and lower, you start to get into more artisanal. There's still larger roasters, but they're not necessarily that big. Some do, some very much do. Some of the brands out there very much run the bigger roasters. In our approach, we wanted to maintain that consistency and that offering, and we wanted to control it by being small batch roasters. So while we may, as we scale, add more of these machines, our machines only allow us to get up to a certain kilogram level, and right now it's capped at 12 kilograms. We're going to be going to an 18 here soon per machine, but that's very small batch. That's not large batch roasting. So we can control every roast, every batch, make sure it's consistent, and keep that level of premium at the store shelf. And that was what is different about us. Is air roasting doesn't use fuel, so there's no risk of contamination from burning gas in a closed chamber. We also have an open chamber roasting system with hot air, so that the chaff, and you can see that on our videos on our Instagram, where she's actually showing the roasting process live and describing it, and it's pulling the skin from the coffee bean and taking it away and out of the chamber so that it doesn't get burnt and absorbed into the coffee bean. 'Cause as you're roasting and heating them up, you're expanding the beans. And that would be a fun thing to do to show the audience too, is the green bean, how small it is to the finished roasted bean, which is much larger. And it's surprisingly can be double the size of the original bean. Like the same bean, double the size when it's done roasting. And that is that during that expansion, you're opening up all those pores in the coffee, and those burnt materials, that smoke, that's what's giving you your burnt taste, is getting absorbed back into the bean in closed chambers. Whereas ours are open, that chaff, that dust, all those contaminant, all this extra stuff in the roasting process, is all being pulled out of the bean instead of being absorbed into it. So it's just the pure taste of the coffee the way it was meant to be when it's finished. So making us different. That's the differentiator.
If you took the same bean and did it in a normal, let's call it open fire or open flame roasting, whatever that is, I'm not quite sure. I don't know the business very well. But the difference, does it change the flavor profile? In what way?
Many ways. So
Okay.
a traditional roaster uses a combination of air and gas and a drum, an enclosed drum. So it's usually a drum turning
Think like dryer.
like a dryer. So it's turning like a dryer, and then underneath there is the flame. So you've got flat spots, and you've got an enclosed drum. So there's no escaping what's in there. So the roaster's job with these traditional methods is to manage the gas to make sure that it doesn't get too hot or too cool during the roasting period, and the air. So the air and the gas, they work in combination. So you have to have these things working, and that's where it becomes, very challenging for a traditional roaster to consistently produce the same product over and over again. Here's a great way to test what I'm discussing is you can go online and order, or even in a store, you could pick up one bag this month and then go back next month and pick up another bag, which will be often a different batch, and you can pair them side to side, and you'll taste the difference. There's always a difference in our experience. We've never seen them as consistent as what we've been able to develop in the marketplace. And that is because of flat spots. It's because of the chaff that's inside there. So if the beans had extra chaff that burned off, got absorbed in the bean, you might have a more bitter coffee. If the gas got too high and burnt the tips of the coffee beans, or burnt the beans in any way, you might have more burnt taste to them. They also struggle with uneven roasting process, or uneven roasts. So you can see this as well. Again, this is all things that if you really are interested in digging into the coffee world, you can see these online, and you'll see where people have a batch of beans where the roast color will be all different throughout the beans. And those are things that they struggle with. Whereas our method is suspension of air. It's even air. It's hot. It's turning and cooking the beans properly and evenly from all sides. Instead of being in a drum like a dryer, we basically flip the dryer on its back, and the air is pushing upwards to the ceiling. So it's actually suspending the beans up into the chamber. They're suspended, and the air is moving around them evenly as it turns. The drum itself doesn't turn in our case, but the air cyclone turns the beans, and therefore giving them even heat on all sides with zero flat spots. And again, the air is being sucked, so it's also pulling all the chaff and the particles away from the bean instead of burning them into the bean. So that's why that's so different. We don't use any gas either. So ours is 100% electric. So there's no gas. And in the gas model, again, going back to that evenness of heat, Ours is determined by temperature setting. It's air and electricity. So there's a lot even temperature there. With gas drum roasters, you're always playing with the gas and the air levels to try to keep the temperature at the one level as you're going through the roasting curve. And when that gets a little off, it doesn't take much, a couple of degrees, and you can either undercook, underdevelop, or overcook and burn. And it's very challenging. In fact, hats off to drum roasters that are doing a good job, because it's a very challenging model. It's a very challenging model in that aspect. Because of it takes something to have that evenness. But I'll tell you what, from the beginning, we took over 25 of the best coffees available on the marketplace, and we tried them month after month, and we never found a consistent offering. And when we paired them up with what we're doing, we noticed that they didn't compare. Ours were far more even in roast profile to taste in the cup. So that's how we knew we were different, and we had something that was worth bringing to the market, because you can't, in this space, you don't want to come with the same, you got to have something that's going to set you apart. You've got to be doing it different.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's talk about shipping. You're an online shipping company. You're trying to build customer service with customers online. That relationship's different. That feedback loop is different. It's not quite face to face. Let's talk about that a little bit, because that is part of your business model, right?
Yes. Customer service is always key to us. So we're actually in the process of shifting this a little bit.
Perfect.
Yes, we do all of those things, but as we've started to push our SKUs into Amazon, we've embraced Amazon's fulfillment capabilities, and we've seen a pathway to what we want to do in this next year. We're looking to continue to push SKUs into fulfillment with Amazon, because they have a larger setup, and arguably, I don't know who's gonna be better at large scale fulfillment than they are when it's direct to consumer. They figured it out. Prime shipping is pretty hard, we found, to compete with. It's in pretty high demand, and they are a one-stop shop. So they actually provide you with the dashboard and the tools to support your scaling when it comes to customer service. They're there for you when you're in their fulfillment. Again, I'm not running an ad for Amazon. I'm just a big fan, as we've grown to learn more about them and learn more about the online marketplace. We've learned that as we want to scale, we want to focus on making an amazing coffee offering. And as a small business, it's tough to scale both at the same time. So if we can partner with the fulfillment side and use their established warehouses, their established sales channels, their established storefront, all the trust, all the customer service, all the refund policies are already built into their system. We're just looking at this as a smart time to say that we're at a fork in the road. Why don't we just use where these guys are already scaled up? They have a price point, but it's worth it, because we would be looking to take on more real estate for storage and for processing orders, small orders. Whereas now, as we grow, we're only focused on large packaging. And so we have taken the direction of pushing our SKUs SKU by SKU. I mean, we have 7 whole bean SKUs available in the marketplace on Amazon now. So if they go and search Skyrocket Coffee, our brand store is going to be up, and they're going to be able to see all of our coffees. And we're going to continue to push in ground offerings, larger bag sizes, eventually K-cups, eventually merchandise offerings. We have really fun coffee mugs we call them rocket cups, where they're great coffee mugs with famous quotes on them. And that's part of our reading and that sort of thing. And so we just see pushing that over to Amazon as a smart move at this junction so we can focus on parts that we're really good at and let them do the parts they're really good at. And that's how we're starting to move forward in that realm.
Awesome. What do you guys want to talk about on this episode? Maybe you thought about building up to it, things that you guys wanted to talk about, signing up for another one. I want to give you room for that. Let's talk about that. Anything that you have, things on your mind, new things coming that I haven't covered yet.
Well, I'd say new things coming. We're always pushing the envelope. We're always growing. We always love talking about self-development. And, as far as coffee goes, I think we've talked a lot about the different. I would love to hear more of what you've gotten as, feedback from the audience and what they're interested in as well. And I tell you, one of the things that we're really excited about is we are just about to launch into, we have a couple of salespeople that are going to be doing some outbound sales work in the Texas area. So we're excited that we are going to be reaching out to independent coffee shop owners, ones that aren't doing their own roasting, and seeing how we can work with them to just improve or give them a different coffee offering, whether it's an improvement over what they're experiencing. We are getting such great feedback about our coffee. And one of the things that we've noticed is that people who consume our coffee, they tend to do two things. They're exploring all of the origins. So they're kind of, globetrotting with their coffee purchases. We'll see them come back, and one order is Mexico, next order they're checking out Papua New Guinea, next order it's Chimbu, back to, so that's really neat. That's given us a positive feedback to what we're doing. And we love seeing that because, so traditional is the model of you buy one style coffee. Remember, I think of when I was a kid, my parents always had the can of coffee. It was the same can of coffee unless that one was out and on the market or on the shelf. It wasn't there. They'd buy the one next to it, but it was always the same coffee. As to now you're in a world of all these great things to try. So we're there. And as I say this, I'm losing my train of thought, is that they're consuming more. That was the other thing. The orders they're increasing. So it's telling us, okay, this is a really great coffee, where they may have been a cup a day. Now they're like, this is good. I'm going to have 2 cups, So we wanted to take this and take it to the shops, the independent shops. So anybody in your audience that's looking to change up what they're doing or get in on this, that's what we want to do. But we want to do it in a little bit different way. So we want to really extend all the benefits to what we're doing. So one of the things that when you're looking at a coffee offering like ours for your shop, you're now an extension of what we're doing. So what we like is that we're taking care to make sure that it's a premium certified organic offering, and it's tested for mold and mycotoxins, which is becoming such a big concern out there. And we're supporting literacy with a portion of proceeds from our revenues. And that combination, I think, is kind of an exciting thing when I look at it from a marketing standpoint. If I'm an independent coffee shop, that I can work with a brand that's actually that's up to some big things and help extend that or help be a part of that mission. We want to invite them to come in and be a part of that. And we also want to apply some of the things I'm personally excited about. Is I have a sales background, and I want a sales and marketing. I want to extend that to some of these shops, because you've got so many Starbucks and the Dutch Brothers and the Scooters and all these big chains. But let's see what we can do to continue to push the independents, and bring them a solid, consistent offering. Because I think that's, at the end of the day, what's really important to their customers, something they can count on. And that's our coffee. It doesn't change. It's always consistently the same, time and time again.
Love it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the other part of this, which getting into these means you've developed sort of what I would call a wholesale business model. You've talking about possibly more volume, unless you're talking about selling in the pack. But I would also assume you're talking about brewing the coffee in coffee shops. So you've thought about a wholesale model, selling at those volumes, maybe, hopefully. What does that do to your model now? Because you are talking about small batch.
Yeah, so but we're small batch with the ability to scale. So we have all the scalability is there. So as in the coffee world, you've got to be in the volume business, or it doesn't work. When you're roasting on the roasting side, you've got to be in the volume business, and that's where you are able to start to bring down your cost of goods. And so it's already part of our model. It was something that when it was just her and I, we couldn't reach and do all the back end of the business. And that's why we didn't do this before. It's always been something we've wanted to do. It's not something that we could reach out and do right away. We're just getting there now as we start to build out the direct consumer portion of the business, and we put that fulfillment off onto Amazon. Now we've changed our internal model to volume production already. So it fits what we're already building into. And now it's just a part of executing and rolling it out. And I'm just like, you're asking about what we can talk about next in an upcoming episode. That's kind of where we're at now, is just we're getting ready to roll this out. So we're just kind of teasing it out there. This is coming. We're going to be taking on more local events and being out there in the marketplace a little bit more as we've been able to build up to this. Because before it's just like building anything. It's just a lot of work at the onset to get everything rolling and working and going. And now we're starting to say, all right, here we've got these established. This is happening. Now let's move on to the next challenge and build this section of the business out. But as far as how it'll affect us, that was already something we were prepared for. We knew that we were going to have to reach a volume, but it doesn't change that we can make it in small batches. Our machines keep us at small batch, but we just run a lot of it. And that's okay. That's by design. We wanted it that way. I didn't want to get to large and fully automated type operations when it comes to the roasting, because that's where you start to lose your differentiator, right? You just become like everybody else. You have to move towards those machines, and that's not something we're willing to do. We're going to keep it small batch, and we're going to continue to, we'll just hire on the positions as we grow and just continue to add on the machines. We're working with the manufacturer. The manufacturer's already got some larger units in production. I think they're due out in May of this year. And we're actually going to be at the Houston Coffee's SCA event. It's a big coffee event that's being held here in a couple of months. And we'll be talking with the manufacturer to see where they're at with that and see how that's going to work out. So it's kind of everybody working together. They're working, they're building, we're building. It's working good.
I love it. Next question for you guys. Let's talk about the reading thing. Let's talk about self-development specifically. Let's change topics here a little bit off the coffee. Let's talk about that focus as a lifestyle. Let's talk about what it means to you guys. How do you live it? Let's break it down specifically for the audience, because I think I get a lot of questions around health, around how do I live lifestyle? How do I live my own? I think it's more important to also tell other people's story, because my way doesn't fit everyone's way. And I think you guys have a great way of doing things, the reading, the education, the holistic viewpoint to it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what a day in the life looks like.
Okay. So a day in the life looks like getting up usually before the sun.
Pretty much always before the sun out here.
Yeah.
We don't have, that's the one thing in Texas, that we don't have the early sunrises here. We used to have early sunrises back in Oregon, but here it's pretty much, we're up between 4:30 and 5 on a daily basis.
Yeah. Get your workout in, get your meditation in, and then it's often education time. So that's either listening to a book, listening to a podcast, or you're kind of getting ready for the day. On our way to work, we do a shared book or a shared podcast. So like right now, we've got one of John Maxwell's communication books that we're listening to on the way to work. Our last book was Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Amazing book, by the way. that is absolutely a transformational book. If you haven't read it yet, highly recommend that book. And then in the evenings, often we'll like to just maybe sit down and read for a few minutes, get a few pages in, something.
Before that, when we get off work and we get home, we quickly change and head out for a walk. We always get it. We one thing, my gosh, the sunsets here are just amazing. But that is part of a motivator. You want to get out there and see the sunset, but we get out and we do almost 2 miles a day, roughly.
Yeah.
And the only times we really miss that are if we don't get out of here before the sun goes down, because that is we do have a bit of a drive to and from. So it's a walk, and then it's the evening. Then we roll into the evening, and the evening will look like some reading, dinner, and reading, or it kind of just depends on where we're at. Sometimes it's work. The day doesn't end just because it's 4 or 5 o'clock or whatever. It's like, well, we're home and I got to get a couple more posts created, or I got to get on there and fix that ad on the thing that we're running, whether it's wherever we're running an ad. Anyway, that's kind of the day to day. That is who we become. I will say it's not where it started. And I don't, that's the thing is, like, when it comes to self-development, it's a stepping process. And, it's interesting that you asked that question, because I was thinking about this more recently. It's like, where would I, how, if I was going to offer this to somebody else, what would be the thing that you would say, where would you start? Where would you start? And, we kind of talked about in the last episode, we talked about identifying your habits and whatnot, but, one simple structure, I think that can give you your world. Start with exercise. Start at the gym. Start with a healthy habit of daily exercise. It doesn't have to be more than 30 minutes. I built mine off of 30 minutes on a treadmill. I was 334 pounds. I've lost over 100 of it. Probably I gained a lot back in muscle, but lost, but I couldn't do a lot. And so, it started simply putting a TV show on to create the reward system as I put in the steps. And then as the steps got going and I got consistent at it to where I was doing it 5 days a week, then it was like, well, let's add a little bit more in. And I think I actually added some sit-ups in, and then I added another exercise. And before I knew it, I was like, this isn't enough. And you kind of naturally start to evolve to looking for the next steps. But along all of it always consisted of reading and podcasts. They're like, the best analogy I can use is the bumper rails at the bowling alley. You when you're going to go down this path, it's not so simple as a light switch. It's not an on off, like I make a decision and that's just who I am. There's a lot going on in the process of changing and removing bad habits and undoing and coming off of addictions of foods and all these different things that are going to transpire. And it's exhausting mentally because we think it's all physical, but there's just as much going on in your brain as there is physically exertion. And so, while it's changing a habit, right? So if you don't have a habit of exercising, you need to develop the habit. And I think that's a great place to start because it starts to feed into all the other things. So as you're taking in the good information, you're building a consistent habit somewhere. Consistency is my key there. It needs to be consistent. And once and it's not one of those things where you need to bite off more than you can chew, because that's where the failure comes in, right? It's like, if you come out of the gate just, sprinting, and you basically come from the couch to trying to run 2 miles a day, it's not going to work successfully over time. It's going to hurt and maybe injure yourself, and you're ultimately probably going to fail. But if you start out slowly with an end goal in mind and just start building a habit, it's amazing what can happen in your world. But that's really where it started, was small steps led to bigger steps, and it took time. This has been over 6-year process. It wasn't like overnight. In fact, I would say probably for 3 years, it didn't even pick up momentum. It just was building. If I look back and reflect, it's just building the consistency.
Yeah. As far as like getting into the books, and maybe, if you're just starting a reading habit, I personally started with tying it into something I was already doing. So I had to drive to work. At the time, it was like a 30-minute drive, so not that big. But I would put in a book in the morning. So maybe I used to listen to music on the way to work and on the way home to work. So I started with putting my book in for the 30 minutes on my way to work, and then on my way home I would listen to my music again, until it got to the point where I was just listening to books on every drive I was doing. Because I was starting to see my life change for the better. And as soon as you start seeing those things and you acknowledge those things, you're going to keep wanting to do it. You're going to want to do more. You're going to, yeah, your hunger for more is going to grow as you grow. So just being able to start somewhere that you're already doing. So if it's just washing the dishes, doing laundry, you throw in your earbuds and listen to a book or listen to a podcast, something that's just going to be beneficial to you versus just, some music all the time.
Agreed. I think that finding something that is intriguing, engaging. For me, it was David Goggins. It was Mark Manson's book, and then David Goggins. Those were hugely engaging and addicting. Like, I wanted to keep doing it. But you're right. I do remember the same thing, because here's the thing that's not accounted for is you have everything you do during the day, your workload, your responsibilities, your home, all of these things. And then you're starting to add this educational component. And while it doesn't seem like, like, oh, I'm just replacing my music with my education. Well, when you're intentionally paying attention to words that are coming through the speakers, it takes energy. It takes a little energy off your day. So you don't want to try to, you don't want to go from nothing to sprinting. It's like 15 minutes, 30-minute increments, bite it off. And then your mind will develop. It'll start to get stronger and ask for more. And then that's when you can flip, because we were the same thing. And depending on workloads, it still goes that same way for us now. Often it is still music on the way home, or really for us, it's just unwinding and talking about going over the day and setting up the next day. Because we have that convenience we work together and we travel together, so we can do that. And that way, by the time we get home, we're off to different projects. But yeah, it's a great place to start, is find that book and engage, start the process. Just start it.
Awesome. Was it tough to get it used to? How failure? Talk to me about that. You guys probably failed a few times, got frustrated a few times, picking yourselves back up, having each other to sort of, it's like they say in the Bible, it's always better with two than it is with one, especially because you can pick each other up and keep going. So
agreed. We recently had one of those. We had that she was picking me up, and I had to. I mean, for the audience, if anybody's listening to David Goggins, he has this thing he calls the poopy pants mentality, and that's when you're off your game and you're just in the, you're just not having it. Here's the thing I love about that question, and what's happening in the space of self-development today is there's an honesty about this. We're all human beings. We all fall down. We all do it, and it will happen, and there's nobody perfect, and it just doesn't exist. I mean, look at any of the stories of any of these people, they all will say the same thing. I mean, every one of them, even the hardest of the hard, Goggins will talk about in his book, hiding at a porta potty because he needed a break, and then he found his inner toughness, and he comes out. So it's with everybody. And I love the reality because you can get into this work and think it's just all rainbows and sunshine, and like if you just get into this mentality, then you never have a bad day. That's not true at all. You're human. We're all human. We all fall down. We all have setbacks. We all have challenges. We get faced with challenges every day. I mean, we're building a business. Some days look better than others. But you're absolutely right. The difference is we put and keep a structure around us of positivity, of stories, of people overcoming adversity. Sometimes it can even be the form of a movie. Like, I'm a business guy. I love that movie Founder. I love the story of McDonald's and, Air, about Nike, like any of those kind, I'll put those on just as my motivator if I'm having a tough go in the business world, whatever I may be challenged with. Sometimes it's just the amount of learning curve where you think you're over it, and and then you go, oh my gosh, I got to learn more. I got to learn this. I got to learn, it's just never ending. Right. And so you have these setbacks in personal life. Yeah, there are days where the gym doesn't happen or the walk doesn't happen. And, one of the things that we've learned is to have a healthy self-talk and have a healthy outlook and be able to honestly, objectively look at the situation and say, am I being emotional? Am I giving into an emotional, I don't want to do this? Or am I exhausted? Because there is a difference. And the more you get into this, the more you can start to discover that. But on the onset, it's probably maybe I would say I fought more emotional stuff. I fight more exhaustion now. I push hard. And in the beginning, it was like I was breaking an old lazy routine and putting in a disciplined working routine, workout and working. And that is a challenge because you're dealing with the internal emotion around it. But as you go on and as you start to take on more and go for more, there will come a point where you have to objectively see, is it my emotions taking hold of me, or am I flat out exhausted? I mean, there's been times where we didn't even realize how tired we were until we finally hit that burnout phase. And it was like, whoa, we went too far. We got to stop doing this, because that's another balancing act that you want to kind of, Justin, I'm still working on it myself. It's a very challenging road when it comes to that, but as long as you're committed to the end goal, to reaching whatever that is for you. For me, it's just, I love that analogy that they use, when at the end of the road, when I'm up there and love this. When I heard this the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it is. When you're up there and you're facing God and he says, and he shows you who you could have been versus who you are, what do you want that to look like? I want to be as close to the guy that I could have been as I can get. And that is my commitment daily, is just always improving. I don't want to be the same person I was last month or last year. I want to keep improving. So with that commitment in mind, that drives me forward. That drives me in my relationship. It drives me in business. It drives me in my personal everything. And so I don't know where else to go with that, but I hope it resonates.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things is no matter what in life, there's going to be pain and discomfort. It's just whether it's chosen or it's given. I think that's inherited. I think that's what we're talking about here. So I just wanted to anchor that. I think it's something you guys do very well. You display very well. I want to thank you guys for your time. I do have a couple more questions, but I'm going to save them. I hope we can do a part 3 with you guys when you're ready. And we can get more questions from the audience, hopefully, or you guys have some new developments. I think that would be fun. But before we end, I want to make sure you guys have enough time to close out any thoughts, any things to reflect, where they can find you online, all of those good things. And then I want to ask a question about David Goggins that I will ask before we get off, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course, man.
The only thing I would add into what we were just talking about is you'd mentioned having the partner to kind of do this with. That has been really a big benefit, I think, for both of us, is just having someone to be accountable to. And when you're falling, that you have someone to push you. So, some days we both fall at the same time, and that's okay. But usually one of us picks themselves up a little bit faster than the other, depending on what the scenario. It's me or it's him. And then we just keep pushing each other, and we keep going back to that commitment of we both want to be the best version of ourselves for us and for everyone around us. So just having an accountability someone, I believe is important.
I think it's good. I mean, it's like, it definitely is an advantage.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you have to have like a spouse to be accountable to you. I'm just saying some sort of accountability partner, whether that's someone you find online who's, doing it up to the same types of things you are, or a friend or a parent or anyone, just someone to that's really on the same journey as you, that that can help you push you when you are having a hard time pushing yourself.
Yeah, it definitely helps. I do want to just underline that it will be a tough go. I don't, if you do or don't have anybody, here's the thing: start anyway. They will show up, and give yourself the space for them to show up. And in the process, if you don't have that person, start to think about what that person would look like. The universe has a way of answering it for you as you start to identify what that would look like. Because often, in many situations, I think that it's when you start to make these changes. Like the first thing we talked about this in the first one, where we started to make these changes, and the people around us, that wasn't necessarily, they weren't on board with that. And so the friendships, and what we had a lot of friends at the time, the herd thinned out a lot, because this is not for everybody. Not everybody. This is the road less traveled, and it comes with a lot of challenges. Well worth it, in my opinion. I tell everybody, I definitely recommend taking the road, but you have to give yourself space to have, it's not going to, results aren't going to happen overnight. It's going to be sometimes months before you see results. That's why I love the analogy of working out. If you go working out for a month and you think you're going to lose that 30 pounds and going to have the swimsuit body, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. It's the same mentality. It's going to take time, and you need to switch from, I just want to reach a goal and have instant gratification, to, this is my new life path. This is how I'm going to continue living. This is who I am, not a destination. And I think that's when the whole game changes, and you're able to pick yourself up faster, recover faster, because everybody's going to fall down.
Yes.
How fast you can get back up.
Failure is inevitable.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a matter of like, okay, I'm so committed to this that it doesn't matter if I fail. I'm going to learn from my failures and move on.
And then really, when you start to see it, you really start to get that, it's like every failure is an opportunity. It no longer is a setback. It's like, oh, what did I learn? What's going on? How'd I end up here? So hopefully that offers something to your audience. I'm curious about your Goggins question.
Yeah, I do have one more, though. Now I'm going to hold the Goggins one, and I'm going to talk about this. Let's talk about the losing, the changing, the inside changing, your outside environment changing. There's a mourning there. There's almost like a crazy thing that goes on. At first, it's a very painful process when you truly seek change or personal growth or a spiritual relationship with a higher power, whatever it is that you're doing in life. The growth, especially if you do it all the way around. We're talking about a total lifestyle. That's why I use the word lifestyle. We're talking spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, 4 important properties there. Why are those 4 important properties important? Because they cultivate 4 things: education, experience, exposure, and energy. Okay? That's what we need to get through life. So I want to talk about this hardship. It's almost like the shedding of a layer as a snake. Although I hate to use the word a serpent as a thing, but let's maybe talk about a butterfly. But in some ways, the butterfly doesn't do it multiple times. That's my only hang up here. In this case, you're shedding a layer. You're losing friends. People aren't understanding what you're doing. Why aren't you as cool as you used to be? Maybe. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. And then I'll medical feather, whatever the term is. I'm terrible at those things. If anyone wants to ask me any cliche term or saying, like the Pope always wears a hat or whatever it is, I will not remember it. I do not know why, but logically they don't work in my brain. So I can't. They just, I don't know. I guess a bear does poop in the woods, but anyway.
You're not alone. You're not alone there. I'm terrible with that as well. Yeah, it is. It's that onions, layers like onions. Like it's a game. There's levels, right? There are levels to the game. And it does at first, it kind of depends on what is the spark? So what I'm saying here is that sometimes people often don't make change until something happens, either something negative, something health wise, and then all of a sudden they look to making a change. I think we talked about it in the first episode. For us, Crystal in our relationship saw that our lifestyle wasn't going anywhere. We weren't doing the right things. And just meaning like we just weren't going anywhere. It was just getting worse, really. I mean, business wasn't growing. It was struggle. Our relationship was falling apart. My drinking is a slippery slope. I was just drinking daily, more frequently. And yeah, I mean, we were warming bar stools. Like our life was like Monday through Friday, and then Friday through Sunday. I couldn't tell you that I didn't wake up with a hangover for a lot of years. I mean, it was just sad. And thankfully for her, she woke up to it. And that's what kicked off, sparked our change. And why I bring this up is that not that it's just how we did it. I really hope more people hear these words and just make the change now. Don't wait till something happens. Don't wait to get started. If you feel internally like something needs to shift, just dig in.
Listen to that.
Just listen to it. It's telling you. And I was one that would probably try to drown it out. Whereas Crystal's like, hey, something's saying we need to change. And so the onset at the beginning, you're battling yourself. So you start one thing that will happen depending on how you go about this is when you start to go and say, hey, I'm committing to a better lifestyle, a bigger lifestyle, and going after my dreams, because we all have them. We all have dreams. We all have things that we want to accomplish. And when you get really committed to it, the first thing I think that you see is your surroundings aren't in line with that dream, right? So you kind of see that the people around you often don't have that. Because if you do have those people around you, you're probably headed to your dream. If you are now realizing that your lifestyle isn't conducive or congruent with the dream that you have, the goal that you want to achieve, then you're first going to recognize that often the people around you don't have it. And this isn't just friends. It can be really tough with family as well. Family is your family. You love them. They love you. They care about you. They're worried about you. They want you they want you safe, and this can look scary to them. And so they might want to try to hold you to where they want you. And these are things that just kind of, you hear it in a lot of other self-development podcasts. They talk about this. And it's very true that you're going to start to make changes. And at first, it's going to be very confusing to the people around you. I think your family will be the first to come around. Your friendships, you better examine them and make sure they're congruent with your goals, because often they're not. And a lot of them, if not all of them, in my case, just about all of them. I almost down to two of the most successful people I have around me. And that's how that shifted, because my friends were barstool warmers. We were bar hopping. We were party friends. They weren't friends. They were just into the workday friends, and so I didn't really have those friendships around me. So it wasn't to me, when it happened to me, it just was like, okay, I get it, but some people go, oh my gosh, I've had people that we've coached and been in this situation, and they're like, I don't have any friends. Oh my gosh. And it's this new world. It's like, well, but how did you end up with the friends you had? We, especially when it comes to the drinking and that sort of, something happens right out of high school into college where it's like, it's just this party scene, and we forget how to do life without that. So it's like we go to events and we numb ourselves, and then we all become friendly and talkative and yada yada. But these aren't really friends, right? These aren't the ones that you're looking for when you're up to a bigger goal. And they're going to be the first to scatter, because they often don't want the same thing you do. And you got to be okay with letting them go. And some will come back around. We've also had some that have, stayed in the maybe on the sidelines and just kind of been like, wow, I'm really into what you're doing. And I see what's transpired, and they come back around. But that's the hardship, is you're going to shed a lot of those quote unquote friends, and it's going to get a little lonely on that road. And you need to understand it changes. Don't give up because you're lonely. Don't give in. Keep going, and tune into the people. Like, I love this one. And this is an Ed Milet thing. He'll tell you, it's like, look, you're going to hit this lonely part of the road. Put me in your ears. Turn my podcast on. Listen to these conversations and empower yourself. Don't sit there alone and go backwards. And I think that's kind of in the morning that you were talking about. There's been a lot of that, especially as the more we dig in and see where we've kept our emotional thermostat, or just our overall, deals. There's a lot. I'm sorry, Justin, there's a lot to unpack there. I was just realizing as you asked, as I'm going over
No,
this.
keep going. I would
So
stop
much.
you if I wanted you to stop. It's your show, man. You get the mic, and I've got time. So,
Oh no, we're gonna be here all day.
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it's true, and it's
Yeah,
important to unpack it because people are at every levels of this, I think, for sure. That's why I asked the question.
100%. Yeah, I think that, during this period of time, that's why your exercise is going to be important. That's going to keep your brain flushed out. And it's going to keep the dopamine properly operating, and keeping your mind in a healthy space. Your state of mind, it keeps you in a healthier state, because at the onset, you're not going to have all the tools. And so you need the structure, right? So it's the proper, surround yourself with the proper mentors and their podcasts and books. And then the exercise as you go through this. And then it's going to be an evolution process, because you're going to start to do some self-reflection, and you're going to come across things you don't like, and you're going to start to figure out where they originated from. And I think you go through not just the morning, but you get angry, you get a little frustrated, a little upset, feel like you got a little ripped off. And then you go, oh, but this is all why I'm going through this. Is these things didn't happen, I wouldn't be here. And then you kind of move into the mourning process, and you go past it, and the grievance, and you grieve that past, and then you become compassionate for why you're where you're at with your, ultimately, hopefully with yourself. I'm kind of narrowing in. A lot of us kind of look back and say, wow, how much should our child, I love this. It's like always back to the childhood, right? But that's where it all starts. It's where it all starts, right? And so you get angry, like we got ripped off, like we didn't get the childhood. A lot of us don't think we got the childhood we deserved. But if I didn't have the childhood I had, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you today. So it's like I can't discredit the process, and you don't want to, but sometimes it's hard during that morning process to get to this side of it. And it's just time. You just have to put in the time and the reps, and you end up on the other side of it. And then it gets really exciting. Everything starts to shift. It started with these changes back in Oregon. Again, once we started making the changes, we started practicing 100% responsibility, and our world around us shifted, and the business took off. Crystal's career took off. And next thing, we found ourselves this opportunity to really create the life that we've been dreaming about, that we talked about back in Oregon on rainy days. Oh, wouldn't it be great to live in the sunshine and all this? And then along the path, you'll be talking, and you'll realize that your environment doesn't necessarily, I love the word congruency. You're going to work towards congruency in all areas of your life, and your environment isn't congruent to your speak, right? So what we were talking about, our lifestyle, was not even close to congruent with it. And we paused right there, and like, what are we doing? Here we are in our 40s. Well, when are we going to get to this life that we're dreaming of and talking about? When? And that's when we did it. And we said, this is it now. What would we do? And we started to think about, really take seriously those daydream conversations we'd have, and started to build that. And we liquidated and made the move. And now we don't talk about living in sunshine like we always did, and riding our jet skis in our backyard because we're backed up to the lake. We don't talk about it. We live it. And now it's like, wow, I am so glad we made this decision. We saw the most beautiful sunset yesterday. We were driving home, and we had to, thankfully, it's a quiet road, which you can find out here. It's nice. And we just paused on the hillside and just stared at the sunset. And just like those moments, you realize all the work that you went through, all the time you put in was for this. And it's like, it's the world, man. It's everything. It's like
Magic.
it's magic. And you're like, this is all because I didn't give up. I didn't turn around when the road got hard. Everything you want is right past quit. Everything. You just have to not quit and you can get it. And that is like, that's the magic of the process. So when you have those moments, you just want them for everybody. We want them for everybody. That's why we're so passionate about all of it. It's like, we love making great coffee, but we really love having people get on the path to their potential, to their dreams, to accomplishment. Cause it's like, hey guys, this is great stuff. You know, we want you come check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's hard. And it's not even, we're not even at the, you know, I don't know where it doesn't look. The other thing I would love for the audience to know is it doesn't end. It never ends. It'll till the day we die and leave this earth. It's forever. This is your path. And because you'll realize along the way, it just gets more and more exciting and better as you dig in. And, you know, and the books are, the lovely part about books is there's somebody else's whole life story that you can consume as fast as you can read and comprehend. You can consume and learn from a life's worth of experience. And so the more books you're consuming, it's like you're learning so much from these life experiences that you don't have to wait till the end of your life to learn. You can learn it now and implement and enjoy the reward from. And that's why we're such big advocates of it, of the reading and the path.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it really quick because I think it's important. I want to narrow it down for everyone. This journey that you go on, what we're talking about here, there are dark nights of the soul, for sure. I think that's what we're talking about. There's growth for me. In those dark nights, there's a lot of time with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. You know, actually, I spent a lot of time with each individual apostle, getting to know them this last time also, as well as attending seminary and trying to figure that out, which I'm still trying to figure out. It's a roller coaster ride for me, that one, because trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to give the time to be a theologian in that way and learn leadership and a master of divinity, plus go through life changes and everything else has proven harder than I thought, even as I'm very capable human, but we sometimes challenge ourselves. But I want to say this. A lot of things that have led to problems in my life and my businesses, especially in my personal life, does go back to my childhood. It does go back to being abused as a kid. And then my way of dealing with it is to please others. If I can just please you, I can get control of the situation and I can keep you at a distance. And I'll know when you're going to try to take advantage of me and I can push you away. Okay, so does that work in life in some ways? Does people pleasing work as an entrepreneur? Yeah, like customers, you get to know them. You know them better than they know themselves sometimes because it becomes everything that you're about. It's the way it happens. However, in the long run, you lose pleasing yourself or understanding yourself, or you lose your identity in business. It starts to attach to things like your family or your businesses or the things you've accomplished over 24 years. Whatever it is, that's where the things get a little bit dangerous. In Christianity, that would be false idols. They become more important than the universal good that we're trying to do as humans, as masters of the world around us. And I don't mean masters as in owners, as in a master and slave relationship. I mean master as apprentice and master. I think we confuse that in the Bible. We hear master and we're like, oh, I'm a master. Slave relationship. Look at me. I'm the boss. No. Master in the craft, okay, and master in the world around us, meaning we are in should I say balance with it. That means how we eat. We've talked about this, how we are emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, the energy we put into the world, how we educate ourselves, how we educate others, what experience are we seeking in life, what experience are we giving others in and through our life. And what exposure are we getting to the world? And what exposure are we giving to our world when people come visit us? Those are important things. And energy That's a lot of different things for a lot of different people. But for me, like ultimately, I'm powered by the Holy Spirit. It gives me energy when I don't think I have any. That's what all of this taught me. I thought it was my own power at times and my own will at times, and this is what it is. But there's the times where you don't have anything left. You don't know where it is. And someone comes along and picks you up, and it's an unlikely human from an unlikely place. And that matters. And in other cases, you have the human that's right next to you that surprises you in the ways they show up, even though you've known them your whole life. Because all of a sudden you start showing up for each other and you're what I would call accountability partners. And we've just talked about that. So I'm laying a lot of terms, a lot of thick layers here, and we're digesting everything. But the most important part of what is going on here is we're at the beginning of Skyrocket Coffee. We're with two entrepreneurs that understand pressure forges diamonds and iron sharpens iron. And they're building a business, okay? Now, will this business pivot? Will it change? Will the inside of the business change before the outside changes? Of course. Are they building a culture in their business that's true, that we're just beginning to see? Yes. When did it start? Well, the business started long before it ever got incorporated. The minute they together, Chris and Crystal, even though I'm talking about them third person, they made a decision to better their lives. That's when the trajectory changed. And so if we're going to anchor anything, I do think it's, am I getting closest to the ideal version of myself? The ideal God has for me, or the ideal thing that the best I could be, am I always seeking to be closest to that? As a business, as an entrepreneur, father, mother, brother, sister, friend, community leader, global citizen, master of the universe, master of all animals, of the domain around us, from an educational apprentice master standpoint. I think that's an anchor. So this will be my last question. David Goggins, brutal history, obviously, really incredible story, really incredible him seeking uncomfortability for the sake of growth, still jumping out of airplanes and fighting fires, even though he has books and everything else to keep him, speaking events and everything else. I'm sure that keeps him more than well afloat. Talk to me about that. You've mentioned him quite a bit. You and I have talked about him in sort of conversations before and after the last podcast. What he has a significant input and influence on you from a mentor standpoint.
Yes. He's he's an amazing human being. And I can remember the same friend that recommended This Naked Mind is the same person that recommended I listened to the Rogan episode with him on it. And I listened to that episode and I went out, I grabbed the book immediately and dug into that thing, and I couldn't let up. And it was the biggest health transformational book for me, as far as like, I was at the beginning of my health journey and building my workout habit and my discipline. And he played a crucial part in that. And then later, I guess what I want to say about it is that there are just rare humans on this earth. I love how he says he's not motivational, and I wouldn't say his books are motivational in the typical sense. But there are rare humans on this earth that have accomplished things, such as himself, that they hit you deep when you listen to it, and you listen to what he overcame and who he became and what he's accomplished from that start. And you can't help but to think, I got a little more in my tank to give. Like, am I really giving all that I can give? And that's the best way I can sum up his books, is how they impacted me. I've also used his first book. I listen to it pretty regularly every year. I listen to it one time. It's in many of those years. Now it's been 6 years of this, or 5 of them. I haven't listened to it. Yeah, 6 years. they've pulled me out of challenging times, or the book has injected another round of, I don't know, call it go juice, if you will, when I thought I had given it all I could give. When you talk about like that, when you just use that, when you did just what you were stating in that last in that last piece, where you said, you give it all you got, and then somewhere, maybe someone or something inspires you to continue on. His book has been that for me in many cases where I want to throw in the towel. And I can remember one time distinctly, I can remember Crystal was like, I was having a real hard few months. And she's like, have you listened to David Goggins or thought about listening to that, to Stay Hard Again? And no, but you're right. And I picked that book back up, and I went at it again. And it's like, it just is like, it just builds a fire inside you. I mean, when you listen to a guy that's gone through Bud's training 3 times, ran on broken legs, completed ultra marathons over and over and over in the desert heat, and you're just like, I'm complaining because I gotta
do a 30-minute treadmill,
or I got this little, like, it puts things in perspective. And it lights a fire underneath you to fight and, to give a little more. And I think that is one thing I'll say for the audience, if you haven't checked his book out, because I don't know anybody that checks it out and doesn't become a fan. But if you do, please just know his language. He does use a lot of foul language, and that often turns a lot of people off. But if you can get past that and give grace to that and just get past it, the message in there is undeniable. And the accomplishment from where he started to where he ended is just amazing. And who he is as a person, it just gives you an insight that, hey, I got more in my tank. Even though I may think I'm running maxed out, or maybe I think I'm doing the best I can, if I look at what he's accomplished, I know that the human is more capable than you're more capable than you may feel at the moment. And so that's, I mean, that's a big one.
And both books.
Oh, both books are great.
Yeah. Can't Hurt Me, and then the other one that you mentioned.
Yes.
Stay Hard. There we go.
Yeah. Did I get those right?
Yeah. So one thing that I would recommend, the books are great, but the audio version of his book is kind of like a podcast interview / book. So absolutely worth to listen to.
Yes. Yeah. I'd actually, in that particular case, I would encourage the audio version over the hard copy first, because of that, because he shares personal insights throughout the book. And you're probably already, if you haven't, Justin, I imagine you might have done that, but it's well worth it if you haven't.
No, interestingly, I'm a word on a page person most of the time, and I do listen to podcasts in the car, and I have started listening to books again, audio, especially in seminary when I was there. Like, as you have to read so much, the only way to do it is 2x read an audiobook while you're reading it at the same time on the page, because you can't. It's like, I'm not kidding you. And I was reading 1,000 to 1,200 pages a week in seminary. And that's just, I don't even know how to describe it. But yes, audiobooks became part of my life again, but I will listen to it. No, I haven't. Before I went back to school for seminary, I was all like, I want to read it. I want the pages. I want to do it. But then I had to go back to the tricks I learned in MBA and sort of early on in life when there were books on tape, that if you read a book at the same time you're listening to it, it's 2 ways of input. It adds to a photographic memory. That helps build that. So just so everyone knows, 2 forms of input add an emotional experience also. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I agree with you. I'm a big fan of that. That is a lot of what I like to do in the evenings. I use the audiobooks in the car, or when I'm cleaning the house, or, whatever I got to do that doesn't, working in the yard. But I do, when I sit down to read, I actually prefer it. I really like having both. It helps. And that could just be my mind the way it works. It just
I do it as well. It's for me, I'm dyslexic, so reading by itself is hard. So having that in my ears and then being able to follow along, that full immersion really kind of cements the book into your memory.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. We left a lot of nuggets in there, and we're like literally hitting the 2-hour mark of recording. So I think we've covered it all for sure. We're about 8 minutes short of that mark. 107. I'm sorry. I lied there a little bit. But yeah, no, I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for coming on the show. I know there's a lot of tidbits in there for you guys. For this show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys know the actual release date, but I'm going to give you the audio in advance so you can tease it out to your audience and do a pre-release, since there is some segue there. That way you guys can get questions and feedback directly as well. And so the audience knows as well. This round, instead of giving it to me, give them directly to these guys if you want. Reach out to them, follow them on social media. Let's do it that way. As things are getting bigger with the podcast and we are going to this format of hitting the ground pretty hard, recording, supporting all the entrepreneurs in Gorilla Brave, and then I'm still keeping up with all the consulting I do. That is starting to be a lot. And then just, trying to make ends meet on a normal basis and building companies sometimes can be hard. So that is what I'm asking. I'm going to ask you guys to start reaching out to the entrepreneurs more, building relationships with these entrepreneurs more, building relationships with their business more. That way you guys have mentor relationships. There's a lot of individuals that are out there that are willing to talk to you in every industry. Just reach out. It's not scary. And if you meet someone that seems to be competitive and not want to share with you, you're searching for the wrong person. You need to go, or should I say, you're looking for love in all the wrong places. So so there's that. So thank you guys for listening in, guys. As I'm recording this, our numbers have went up 2/3 just in the last month. So I appreciate that, guys. I appreciate all the support out there. I know we're pushing it a lot harder. I know I'm releasing a lot more episodes on a regular basis. There's a lot more consistency. I appreciate all the patience with everyone. So I just want to say thank you. I do love you guys. And I will say the international growth is just blowing my mind. The numbers growing there and the countries, and I love Estonia, by the way. For some reason, a country that's probably 1.2 million people, we have a lot of listeners there, percentage-wise, based on population. I do love Tallinn. I have been there when the World Cup was in Russia in 2018. So thank you, guys. I appreciate that. But I do laugh sometimes when I see some of the places and the amount of listens. So I am honored. I appreciate it. It lets me know that God is truly working through me for everyone and the entrepreneurs out there, and that my time is not wasted in doing this. So thank you guys. I love you guys, and we're out.